Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So welcome to another exciting rendition of Bhagavatam Bites. Haribo! So we're going to continue our reading from Srimad Bhagavatam this morning. Where are we?
Canto 4, Chapter 24, Text 5.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Text 5. Maharaj Antardana had another wife named Navaswati, and by her he was happy to beget another son named Haridana. Since Maharaj Antardana was very liberal, he did not kill Indra while the demigod was stealing his father's horse at the sacrifice. Purport. It is understood from various scriptures and Puranas that the king of heaven, Indra, was very expert in stealing and kidnapping. He could steal anything without being visible to the proprietor, and he could kill anyone's wife kidnap anyone's wife without being detected. Once he raped the wife of Gautama Muni by using his disappearing art, and similarly by becoming invisible, he stole the horse of Maharaj Prithu. Although in human society such activities are considered abominable, the demigod Indra was not considered to be degraded by them. Although Antardana could understand that King Indra was stealing the horse from his father, he did not kill Indra, for he knew that if one who is very powerful sometimes commits an abominable act, it should be disregarded. In Bhagavad Gita 9.30, it is clearly stated, Apichet suduracharo bhajate mam ananyabhak sadhu eva samantavya samyag vyavasito hesa. Thus the Lord says that even if a devotee commits an abominable act, he should be considered a sadhu or a pious man because of his unflinching devotion to the Lord. The devotees of the Lord never willingly commit any sinful act, but sometimes they commit something abominable due to their previous habits. Such acts should not be taken very seriously, however, because the devotees of the Lord are very powerful, whether they are on the heavenly planets or on this planet. If by chance they commit something abominable, it should not be taken into account, but should be overlooked. Very controversial. Unfortunately, because it's been abused due to the child abuse that has gone on in our movement, and unfortunately this verse has been quoted, and that is not correct. My opinion, it's not correct. And especially if you can see here, the devotees of the Lord never willingly commit any sinful act. I just thought that stood out, that just as we say, do not commit sins on the strength of the holy name, that if you're knowingly committing them, and well anyway, I'm a senior devotee, I'm this, I'm that, I'm a devotee, whatever, senior, otherwise, it's not something, it's not favourable, it doesn't show an advanced devotee, that's for sure. But yeah, it's a controversial verse because it can be abused, unfortunately, by people that want to allow certain things to occur that shouldn't be occurring.
Yeah, it's very interesting, especially if you think that the King of Heaven and the demigods are devotees. They're not pure devotees, but they're still devotees. They're devout believers, followers of Vishnu. And they've been empowered by the Lord to take up serious responsibilities. And it's interesting that when you think that the head of all of them is getting up to such mischief. Of course, we hear about different things that he did even to Krishna, and Krishna kind of eventually chastised him kind of indirectly by thwarting his intentions. He didn't kind of go to him and punch him in the face and say, why are you acting like a fool, rectify yourself, which is interesting. The way that Krishna did it is he just protected the citizens, in the pastime of the lifting of Govardhan Hill and Lord Indra sending shower of devastation. He just defended his citizens, protected them, and brought Indra to his knees by showing that all your power has no effect on me. So that's interesting how he did it. But the fact remains that here we have Indra, who's repeatedly performing activities that are unbecoming of someone who is a Vaishnava devotee or a demigod, for Krishna's sake. So very interesting. And even, the incident that was mentioned with Gautama Rishi's wife, that sounds like, that didn't sound like a slip of a lip, like, oops, I used to be a, professional thief and rapist, murderer, whatever, and now I slipped back into it. So I guess it's very hard to understand where is that fine line between someone dipping back into some old habits and that are hard to break, and someone consciously choosing to do something to cause harm or injury. And of course, when we discuss these topics, it seems very cut and clear. That's yes and that's a no, that's right, that's wrong. But actually, all of us on some level fall into the trap of acting according to our bad habits and not being able to generate and create new ones. And we feel very blessed and fortunate that Krishna doesn't just kick us to the curb, but somehow he continues to tolerate and encourage and allow us time and space to improve. Anyway, those are a few thoughts on it. Did any of that make sense? Okay. We're up to text 6. Text 6. Whenever Antardana, the supreme royal power, had to exact taxes, punish his citizens, or fine them severely, he was not willing to do so. Consequently, he retired from the execution of such duties and engaged himself in the performance of different sacrifices. Very interesting. So Bhagavatam here is mentioning that as the king, he would have had a responsibility to exact taxes, punish the citizens, presumably if they've done something wrong, and fine them severely. So maybe that was, fine them severely. Again, let's say if they've done something incorrect. But he wasn't willing to do it. He didn't have the heart for this job. So he got a different job. Purport. It is clear herein that the king sometimes has to perform duties which are not very desirable just because he is the king. How about that one? Similarly, Arjuna was not at all willing to fight because fighting or killing one's own kinsmen and family members is not at all desirable. Nonetheless, the Kshatriyas had to perform such undesirable actions as a matter of duty. Maharaj Antardana was not very happy while exacting taxes or punishing the citizens for their criminal activities. Therefore, on the plea of performing sacrifices, he retired from the royal majestic power at a very early age. Sounds like my kind of guy. Definitely, I know how it feels to not really want to do those kind of things. Not that I've been a king, but just having a position of responsibility and knowing that you have to do this and have to deal with that is like, it can be
taxing.
Yeah, you're taxing others, but who's getting really taxed is yourself.
Text 7. Although Maharaj Antardana was engaged in performing sacrifices, because he was a self-realized soul, he very intelligently rendered devotional service to the Lord, who eradicates all the fears of his devotees. By thus worshipping the Supreme Lord, Maharaj Antardana, wrapped in ecstasy, attained his planet very easily. Purport. Since sacrifices are generally performed by fruitive actors, it is especially mentioned here, Tatarapi, that although Maharaja Antadana was externally engaged in performing sacrifices, his real business was rendering devotional service by hearing and chanting. In other words, he was performing the usual sacrifices by the method of Sankirtan Yagya as recommended herein. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyam Atma Nivedanam. Devotional service is called Kirtan Yagya, and by practicing the Sankirtan Yagya, one is very easily elevated to the planet where the Supreme Lord resides. Out of the 5 kinds of liberations, achieving the same planet where the Lord resides and living with the Lord there is called Salokya liberation. So he went back to Krishna.
But why? How?
Because he performed sacrifices in devotional service by hearing and chanting.
Yes, he performed the Sankirtan Yagya. He went back to Godhead because he did Bhagavatam Bites. He listened to the Bhagavatam Bites, or he recorded Bhagavatam Bites.
Yeah, it's interesting though, because when Maharaj Prithu was leaving, or left, and it was explained, he had his eldest son. This is his grandson, isn't it?
No, this is Prithu Maharaj's son.
And he was hailed as being the qualified son, and he engaged his brothers in kingdom service as well. He didn't say, there was no jealousy like Duryodhana or anything. He engaged his brothers. So it's interesting that at the first sort of challenge of, I don't want to, it just seems he wasn't qualified. That's the point I'm making. Maharaj Prithu he was a devotee, but he was keeping the citizens happy. He was doing what he's supposed to do. You can't be like the good guy all the time. That's you can't, I don't want to. And we come across those people that now it's a bit annoying as well, because it's like it can create issues and conflict if you're like, I don't want to say anything. Well, wait a minute, people, this is going on. You need to solve this. You're in that position. Yeah, but I don't want to confront that.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. So it seems he wasn't qualified because he couldn't be the monarch. He couldn't do it. He was sold like that he was highly qualified. Everyone's happy, but he's decided, I don't want to do the kingly duties that involve being not the good guy, so I'm out of here.
Yeah, I mean, it is possible he was qualified, and also it doesn't really express how long he did the service for. Remember, this is probably, which yuga was this? At least, if not Satya, Treta, or Dwarpa. And, so they lived for a long time. So even if he did it for like 10,000 years or like 20 years, that's like 10 or 20, no, it's like 10 or 20 years for us. So, that's still quite a fair amount of time. So it doesn't say, first of all, how long he did do it, but it also came to a point. It does say at a young age he stopped, which means, you could theoretically say prematurely. And it is a good point that if you take up the post or the position and you are meant to deal with something, and then because you don't want to look like the bad guy, or because you don't want to be bothered or distressed, you don't take care of it, that is really bad. It's really horrible, actually. It's like if you got like police officers and you're being robbed or, attacked, and you see a police officer and he's like, hey, I'm not getting into that. Or you call him up like your car's been stolen, and he's like, I don't really have time to deal with this. I don't want to go chasing all over the place. It's like, dude, it's your service. Or a fireman shows up and your house is on fire, and he's like, I'm not going in there. I'm not going to try to fight this fire. It's like, then get another job. Or a surgeon, you show up at the hospital and the surgeon's like, oh, I don't want to get my hands dirty. I don't want to take a risk. You might die, and if I'm the one, And you're like, get off the mental platform, or a solicitor, a lawyer, or an attorney. All of these positions, people take them and you expect them to function in a certain way. And if they start exhibiting a weakness, or because of their own personal vested self-interest, don't do that service, then it could be a problem. Now, I'm not 100% sure that Antardana Maharaj, the son of King Prithu, fits into that exact category, and we'll probably see more as we go along, but it seems like he just wasn't inspired by it anymore, and he was qualified in many ways, so he stepped aside. But likely he put someone in place who was prepared to try to do it. So,
yes, but the point to take away is 2 points now. First is, because you gave all these examples of external people.
What do you mean external people?
Doctors, lawyers, whatever. I'm talking about how important, if you have people, we're just Bhagavatam Bites, so we're in a spiritual organization. Any spiritual organization, we don't need to get political. So if you have the position of whatever it is, if I come as a community member, I take shelter of my leaders. So if there's not care, because that person who's willing to hold the position, may or may not get paid, that's irrelevant. But the point is, they are empowered in that some way to have a position, and you don't want, but I don't get involved in conflict. So your department's running however it's running, and I've been there for so many years, but people are disgruntled or getting hurt and offended or whatever because you don't want to deal with, like, severely punishing, maybe not severely punishing, but just to say, look, Mataji, Prabhu, this is not cool. Then that's not nice, That's the first point. Because at least if you're a doctor or a lawyer...
You already made that point.
I'm just reiterating it because
yes,
it was my
repetition of a good thing is one.
Bringing it back to...
Oh, yeah.
And the second point was... And the second point was, now you made me forget, so we're all going to have to wait till I remember, because you keep talking now, and it was a good one. Oh yeah, and the second point was, if you want to do that, that's all fine and dandy. But then following the example of Maharaj Antardana, then give it up, because you don't want to do it. That's the point. I don't want to read it. Follow his wonderful example, which is to give it up. Giving up position isn't easy, is it? And especially if it comes with some remuneration. Remuneration. Whatever, the package. It ain't easy, and that's the worst as well. So, but what he did was gave up the kingdom. He gave up, imagine what he's ruling. He isn't just ruling some little country. He's ruling everything. Gave it all up.
Earth.
And not only did he give it up, that's one thing.
At least.
That's one thing. But then the positive of that, because he gave that up, what he added was some serious level of Krishna consciousness, to the point that he went back to Godhead. So it's like, okay, I don't want to do it, then that's fine. Step aside, Mahaji or Prabhu. But that often causes the issue, because you don't want to step aside, you don't want to do what you're supposed to do. And not only step aside, but then do what you say you want to do, which is, I just want to be a devotee, then be a devotee. That's just general points. There's nothing that it's just no general, there's no okay, it's just a general points I'm making. This is my disclaimer.
It's just general, it doesn't mean anything. No one in particular. But if you know who you are, it's you. Okay, I thought we were going to get a few more verses in there, but
no, because you interjected on my one.
At least these important points have been made and brought up for your conjugation and contemplation.
Conjugation, what does that mean?
You conjugate on some. Okay, then what is it?
Contemplating. Contemplating.
Okay, we're going to end now before it gets really bad. Lord, this one here, Okay, Krishna, thank you so much for tolerating us. Have a beautiful day, everyone. Don't forget to read Bhagavatam and the English dictionary if you get a chance. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to Prabhupada.